Hiya and welcome to Gaming, where I share my passion of video wide world. In this live stream, I will be discussing or not my story theories held up story of Resident Evil Village. So sit back, relax, grab that chill sandwich, but as always, and more importantly, the live stream. Just going to get an audio check on my live stream. And more importantly, that's my lovely voice indicating that my live stream is A-OK and ready to rock and roll. Okay, so last night I completed the fantastic Resident Evil Village. I feel personally that Village is the best Resident Evil game that I've played. It's my personal belief. I also believe that the story in Village is hands down the best story of any Resident Evil game in the entire series. So in this live stream, I will be discussing whether or not my theories, whether or not my theories held up to the game's story in the final release of Resident Evil Village. Now, I've said a lot about Resident Evil Village leading up to its release. I've had a lot of theories. Where do I start? Let's start with Oswald E. Spencer, the founder and chairman of Umbrella Pharmaceuticals, which would eventually go on to become the Umbrella Corporation. So when I saw the reveal trailer for Resident Evil Village, and I saw the castle in particular, something just sparked in my mind and said, Johnny, you need to go back over your lore of Oswald E. Spencer, because this castle just screams Oswald E. Spencer, which I did. And I researched Oswald E. Spencer, and I brushed up on my Resident Evil lore and Oswald E. Spencer lore. And one of my earliest Resident Evil Village story theories was that Oswald E. Spencer is connected to Village, that he has something to do with this game. I'm not going to go into details, like exactly what I said, but what I did say was Oswald E. Spencer would be connected to Resident Evil Village, and he is. He ended up in the village. He met with Mother Miranda. Actually, is it okay if I just pause the gameplay as I speak, because I feel like I just can't play and talk at the same time. Sorry, it's going to be a short enough live stream, to be honest with you, maybe 20, 25 minutes, something like that. So Oswald E. Spencer, he ended up in the village and he met with Mother Miranda. He was actually a medical student. He was actually taught by Mother Miranda. He was inspired. Spencer was heavily inspired by Mother Miranda and her discovery of the mutamycete. He was fascinated that you could transform a human being by, being infected by an organism. That inspired Oswald E. Spencer. So that's about it. That's the only real part that Oswald E. Spencer plays in the Resident Evil Village story. But did my Oswald E. Spencer theory hold up? Not as well as I would have wanted it to, because he doesn't play a massive role. Okay, some of the things I said was that Oswald E. Spencer, that his family would play a role in Village, I thought that the castle was connected to the Spencer family. I thought it might have been another one of Spencer's estates. That didn't turn out to be the case at all. Um, but I did say that maybe there's a connection to Oswald E. Spencer and Mother Miranda. I did say that. I was kind of thinking, I was theorizing maybe Mother Miranda answers to Oswald E. Spencer, or maybe Oswald E. Spencer answers to Mother Miranda. I definitely said there was a connection to A, Oswald E. Spencer and the story of Resident Evil Village, and B, a connection between Oswald E. Spencer and Mother Miranda. So my Oswald E. Spencer theory held up in the end. As I said, Oswald E. Spencer ended up in the village, met Mother Miranda, and Mother Miranda like took him in and kind of like taught him a lot about biology, taught him a lot about uh, organisms and how they can transform humans. And Oswald Spencer was delighted, and he would eventually go off and discover the progenitor virus to achieve his vision to become a god of a new world. So, okay, Oswald Spencer theory kind of held up in the end. Where will I go next? What did I say? Okay, I mentioned Wesker at some stage. I was thinking maybe Wesker plays a role in all this. Wesker played no role at all in Village. Unless there's a hidden cutscene that I have yet to discover. Oswald Spencer, I said a few Wesker. I said a few things about Wesker. That he could still be alive. Not Alexia. Alex Wesker was able to transfer her consciousness into a new vessel. I thought to myself, maybe that would explain why Wesker is still alive. I don't know if this is really a theory because it was more or less confirmed by Capcom, but I suppose I'll mention it anyway. I did say that there would be elements from Resident Evil 7, like story elements, uh, stuff like that, that would be carried over into Village. Stuff like the mold, stuff like the connections. Um, that held up very well indeed. The mold plays not only a role in Village, but it is a significant role. Like it's the root of what creates the biological weapons in Village. Like in Seven, you're introduced to the mutamycete of the mold. In Village, you're introduced to the megamycete, which is basically the source of the mold, where it all came from. So in Village, you discover where the mold came from. Um, Village also explains why and how Evelyn was created. Um, the connections, who also are kind of like mentioned in Village again, so they return in a way. You don't get to see the connections, you don't get to meet up with anyone within the connections, you don't get to go to any connections lab or anything like that in Village, but you do find out by reading a document that Mother Miranda was contacted by the connections and they offered. See, Mother Miranda lost her daughter 100 years ago in the Spanish flu, and she couldn't live with herself, so she was going to go into a cave and die, basically. That's where she discovered the megamycete and the mutamycete, and she learned that the megamycete basically it store. I know it sounds crazy, but it stores the consciousness of people who passed away, and she felt like if she could find the perfect vessel, then she would be able to bring back her lost daughter. So she actually infected herself with the mutamycete, and that gave her abilities to control people, and gave her extra strength, and it basically gave her eternal life as well. So the connections offer to help. So Miranda gave DNA of her daughter's name is Eva, by the way, and the Mutamycete, and then the connections eventually will create Evelyn. So you find all that out in Village. So big connections to Resident Evil 7 in Village in terms of the mold and Evelyn. The connections, so that theory held up. The connections then is a kind of separate theory that I discussed. Um, as I said, I did a deep dive into the lore of Resident Evil when I was making these theories, and I kind of slowly started to realize that the organization, Umbrella's rival company, that's referenced since the very beginning of the Resident Evil series, you never find out who they are. Uh, I had a theory that they actually are the connections, and I feel very strongly now that they're the connections because the connections was founded by Dr. Bailey, which was the former right hand man of Oswald Spencer, but they had a falling out. So my guess is Bailey established the organization to rival Umbrella Corporation, and that's I think the connections is the organization, and that's it's it's more or less I wouldn't say it's confirmed, but it's definitely hinted at in the Baker incident report. Like it really is, and they're like they've been around for a long time as well. So yeah, I do feel the connections are the organisation. I think it is kind of hinted at heavily. So my theory kind of held up a little bit there. Now I made a few theories then, even as I was playing the game. What did I say? Actually, I had a lot of theories for Village, and I'm trying to remember all of them now, so I'm desperately trying to remember. I had a theory that Ethan Winters was still infected with the mold, and that everything that he experienced, at least after the events of being taken away by Chris Redfield, was an altered reality as a result of being infected by the mold Mutamycete. My theory actually held up more than I thought, more than I was even theorizing. I said that he was infected by the Evan. Welcome back to Green Hill Gaming, man. How are you keeping? How are you doing, man? Great to have you in the live stream, as always, man. Hope you enjoy my live stream. So in this live stream, if you haven't played Village and you are planning to play Village, I would suggest not to watch this live stream because it will be full of spoilers. I completed Village last night, and in this live stream I'm discussing whether my story theories before the game released held up to the story of the final game. So again, if you are planning to play Village and you haven't played it yet, I would suggest not watch this live stream because it will be full of spoilers. So my theory about Ethan Winters still being infected by the mold, not only was he infected by the mold, he was dead because of the mold. I'm good. How are you doing, my man? My mum and dad got the vaccines. Ah, great to hear that, Evan. Good stuff. Good stuff. No, good stuff. Delighted to hear that, no man. And delighted to hear you're keeping well. So that's good stuff, Evan. Good stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, man, if you were planning on getting Village, again, man, you may want to avoid this live stream because it'll be full of spoilers. So starting right now, literally. So there's a massive revelation here now that I'm going to reveal. So again, if you are planning on playing Village, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to either block your ears so that, I don't know, just not watch the live streams. I'm going to give you 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, from here onwards, spoilers. Thanks, you're good to talk again, and I'm not going to play Village, but thanks for the heads up. Ah, cool, so I'll spoil away, so. And yeah, man, good to be able to talk again. So it turns out that Ethan Winters actually died in Resident Evil Village. He died in the Baker family estate, and the mold basically took hold of him. Yeah, so basically he died, and the mold reanimated him. So he's basically the molded. Ethan Winters is basically a superior form of the molded. The molded are the main enemies in Resident Evil 7. So he's no different. I suppose you could say he's no different to Jack Baker or Margaret Baker. Although I'm not too sure if they actually died. But then again, like, you do basically slice Jack Baker in half, and he comes back again. So you could argue that Jack Baker died as well. So yeah, basically, Ethan Winters died in the events of Seven, and so he's dead. So not only is he infected by the mole, he's dead. So I theorized that Ethan Winters was still infected by the mole. Turned out he was actually dead. So my theory did hold up there. As far as having the altered reality, well, he eventually went on to have an altered reality as a result of being infected by Benevitio, whatever her name is. Uh, Johnny, have you played The Last of Us Part 2? If you have not, it's really good. Sorry. No, you never have to apologize for interrupting me. You can interact with me as much as you want, man. No need for apologies. I have not played The Last of Us 2. I still haven't completed The Last of Us 1. So I wouldn't be kind of in a rush to play The Last of Us Part 2. I'd have to go back and complete Part 1 first. So, yeah, so my theory about Ethan Winters having an altered reality didn't hold up really, to be honest with you. But it was fascinating to find out that he was actually dead the whole time. Um, what else did I say? I saw a gravestone in Village that said Eva, and the first thing I said was, "This is Evelyn. Somehow this is connected to Evelyn." I said maybe the original Evelyn is in this game. Maybe Miranda's daughter is the original Evelyn and something like that. And I said that like Rose was a major kind of like was very important to Miranda. And the more I kind of found out about the game's story, the further I was getting into it. Like, and I found that Miranda lost her child, and she was looking to bring back her child. I definitely kind of connected to the two very early on, and I kind of said to myself, okay, she is definitely looking for her daughter. And I felt like that the gravestone Eva was Evelyn. So that theory actually held up because that's exactly what happened in Village. Mother Miranda, she lost her daughter 100 years ago in the Spanish flu. She infected herself with immunomycete to keep her immortal, and she was looking for the perfect vessel to bring back her daughter using the megamycete. This is probably going over your head now, Evan. I'm just fucking. This must be like biology now for you, man. Some fucking extreme fucking biology lesson here now. But the megamycete stores the consciousness of lost ones. So Mother Miranda was hoping to find a perfect vessel and hopefully bring back her daughter Eva with using the megamycete. So that's why Evelyn was created, but it turned out Evelyn was a failure because she rapidly aged, so she wasn't a good fit. She wasn't a good vessel. So Miranda found out about Rose thanks to the connections. So she felt Rose would be the perfect vessel. So I was right there. I kind of comparing the kind of not comparing, but when I was theorizing that Eva, like the gravestone Eva, which is Miranda's daughter, I said that was Evelyn, and I was right. So I got that right. Um, what else did I say? What else did I say? Well, I suppose from the start I said that Chris Redfield wasn't a bad guy. Like, to me, that's not even worth theorizing. Like, I mean, there's no way Capcom are going to go like, yeah, Chris Redfield is going to be a bad guy. I mean, Capcom are not Marvel, like, they're not going to, or DC, like, they're not going to give you that kind of like, oh, he lived long enough to be the hero, so he became the villain, or whatever the fuck the saying is. It's a great saying, like, I'm not having a go, like, but, like, that's not Capcom's territory, like, they don't really do that, like, that much, you know? Like, Chris Redfield, you saw in the story, he's still a good guy, he'll always be a good guy, he's not going to stop becoming a good guy, he's been fighting bioterrorism for the majority of his life. He's not going to stop that now. He's still losing people because of bioweapons. He lost fucking spoiler alert. Ethan dies well, apparently dies anyway in Village. So he loses people still to this day. So he wasn't a bad guy. It turned out that the reason he shot Mia Winters is because Mia Winters actually wasn't Mia Winters. She was Mother Miranda the whole time. She was able to mimic anybody. In this case, she mimicked Mia Winters, so she could basically capture Rose Winters in the best way possible. So Chris Redfield, not a bad guy. God, I don't know how many theories I'm after making, to be honest with you. Um, Like, I definitely knew something was up with Ethan Winters. Like I definitely knew that. This is going back to my original theory now about like, is Ethan Winters still infected? Like once I saw him putting his hand back together like a fucking Lego piece, I was like, there's definitely something up with Ethan Winters. So I'm only repeating my theory. Sorry. Um, that's pretty much it. So just to recap, I said I theorized that Oswald Spencer, long story short, would play a part in Resident Evil Village. My theory held up a little, and he played a very little part in Resident Evil Village because he bumped into Mother Miranda in the village. So technically, this is the way to put it. Right, he was in the village. Oswald Spencer was in the village. That's good enough connection for me. He was heavily inspired, but basically, if it hadn't, oh no, did he play a part? This is how I put it. If Oswald Spencer hadn't met Miranda in the village, he wouldn't have been inspired to do everything he did. So there wouldn't be a Resident Evil universe if Oswald Spencer didn't meet Mother Miranda. So my theory did hold up. Oswald Spencer did have a role in the village. Uh, what is it? Connections. I said that they were the organisation. I still feel they are, and I still think there's clues in the game to kind of to point that out, to kind of prove that. I'm only repeating myself now. This is meant to be a recap. And I kind of theorized that like there would be a lot of things brought over from Resident Evil 7 into Village and they would be expanded upon. And that's exactly what happened. The origin of the mold, the origin of Evelyn, um, it all happened. And the origin of the connections as well, all happened in Village. So, long story short, I didn't 100% accurately predict the entire story of Resident Evil Village from start to finish. That's never something that I intended or claimed, uh, to be doing. But it was nice to see some of my theories kind of like come to fruition as far as Oswald Spencer playing a role, um, Ethan Winters being dead the whole time definitely wasn't normal in that game, for that way. And like Mother Miranda, like looking for her lost daughter, which is kind of connected to Evelyn. So yeah, it was fun having those theories, and it was fun to see that some of those theories um, kind of held up. So overall, if you had to review my theories holding up to the final story, probably a fucking, I don't know, man, probably a 5 out of 10 at the most. Um, so now I want to wind off the live stream. Wind off. What the hell? The fuck is wind off? Now I want to I want to what's the word I'm looking for? Wrap up the live stream by just discussing the actual story. Forget my theories. Just discuss the actual story. I said at the start of the live stream that I feel that Resident Evil Village has the best story of the entire Resident Evil series, and it does. It's a tragic story. It's more tragic than any Resident Evil game I ever told. It's, in my opinion, this is big now. It's more tragic than the Raccoon City incident. And I know like fucking hundreds of people, possibly thousands of people lost their life in the Raccoon City incident. The thing is, it's because it's so personal to just a few as opposed to a mass tragedy, if that makes sense. Like a mass tragedy is kind of like thousands of people died at the exact moment because of the exact cause. Whereas Seven and Village, like they're connected, and It's a tragic, tragic, tragic story. It's tragic for, like, basically, this is how I'm going to describe. So the reason I think it has the best story, the reason I think Village has the best story, the entire Resident Evil series, is because of how tragic of a story it is. You know? So this is how I would start it off. So you have to go back 100 years ago. You have to go back to the Spanish flu in Eastern Europe. And you have to go back to a lady called Miranda. She lost her young daughter, her 10-year-old daughter, Eva, to the Spanish flu. A mother losing her child at that age, in those circumstances, it broke her, just like it would break anyone. She could not cope with the grief of losing her 10-year-old Eva. So she was ready to just die. She could not go on. She went into a cave, and she literally wanted to die. She went into a cave and she just wanted to die. In that cave, she accidentally discovered the Megamycete, which is an organism that, don't ask me why it's Resident Evil, capable of storing a collective of consciousness of people who passed away in the village. You see, this Mutamycete, it has a colony of fungus that spreads out underneath the village. So anyone who died in that village, this Megamycete basically stores their consciousness. Mother Miranda then infects herself with the Mutamycete, which gives her like superhuman abilities, including the ability to control others, make them do and see things, and it just gives them a god in this village, because the village was superhuman, a god, living forever, not aging, having all these supernatural powers. They would worship her. Mother Miranda herself would look for the perfect vessel to bring back her lost daughter. So all of what she did, all the experiments she did, experimenting on villagers, turning them into biological child, you compare that to the greed and the corruption and the sinister agenda Umbrella's executives. We want to create biological weapons and sell them to the world's military because we want to make money. We want to make profit. We don't care city. We don't care what we have to do in the process. This is what we want to do. I mean, compare that to Mother Miranda. She lost her child. She wanted her child back. Anybody can relate to that. You would do anything to bring back your child. Anything. So that's the tragic story of Mother Miranda. That's what she wanted to do. In the process, then, she affected the lives of so many, including the Winters family. Ethan Winters, Mia Winters, and eventually Rose Winters. And actually, before that, she affected the family, the Baker family. You see, the connections, they reached out to Miranda. They said, we can help you. We can bring back your daughter. Mother Miranda was not going to say no to this. Mother Miranda handed DNA and the Mutamycete to the connections. The connections would then say they would help, but in reality, all they wanted to do was create a biological weapon. They created Evelyn, a 10-year-old human Mutamycete hybrid, capable of infecting people with mold and getting them to do whatever she wanted them to do. And the connections saw that as a perfect next generation biological weapon on the battlefield. But it was a failure to Miranda because she wasn't the perfect vessel, because she aged rapidly and it wasn't ideal for Miranda and what she wanted to achieve. But Evelyn was still there. Evelyn was still this biological weapon capable of mass damage and harm. The BSAA were supposed to have captured Miranda, but they failed, and Miranda ended up basically in the Baker mansion, Baker family estate, and she turned the Bakers lives into living hell. An entire family turned upside down, transformed into monsters, essentially crazy cannibalistic killers, as a result of being affected by the mutamycete. Because Evelyn wanted a family; it was programmed into her consciousness. She wanted a family, so she was bringing everyone together. She didn't care how she did it. So the Baker family would kidnap people, bring them back to the home, and they were crazy as a result of being affected by the mutamycete. They were killing people and eating people and everything. It was just what happened in the Baker in the Baker estate was just hellish indeed. So that was tragic for every member of the Baker family. An entire family brought to its knees in the most sinister way because of um, the infection. Ethan Winters was brought into all of this. Ethan Winters was brought into all this because his wife Mia Winters ended up in this house. So this then now we like poor Ethan Winters. I mean, for God's sake, he thought his wife was missing, but in reality, though, she was missing. I'm sorry, she was missing. Sorry, she was secretly working for the connections the whole time, but that's another thing. But she did get kidnapped as a result of Evelyn. Evelyn brought her back to the Baker estate. Ethan would eventually find Mia, but under the influence of the mutamycete, and she attacked him, tried to kill him. Imagine finding your wife and then your wife would kill you as a result. Mia and Ethan would eventually survive the hell of the Baker incident, and they would settle down. They would settle down in a new home, in a new country, and they even had a baby together, Rose. Meanwhile, the BSAA would convince Chris Redfield to cover up the whole thing because they knew that if word got out that it was down to the mold and Evelyn, then they would have to basically admit their failure of their mission. So they covered it up. Chris Redfield had nothing to do with this because he does not like cover-ups at all, to at least. So he goes rogue. But Ethan and Mia and Rose are in their new home in Europe, settling down, about to have, a baby. Their baby then be born. And then, just like that, Chris Redfield shows up, guns down Mia Winters, um, guns down Mia Winters, just like that. Kidnaps Chris Redfield's and Mia, kidnaps Mia and Ethan's baby, just like that. Uh, and just like that, their lives are completely turned upside down again. So it's tragic. 2 seconds then. I am back to tell the tragic story of uh, Ethan Winters. So the entire story of Resident Evil Village and 7 before it is just so tragic. So yeah, just when Ethan Winters thinks he can put the nightmare of the Baker incident behind him and settle down in his new home in a new country with his wife and child, his life gets turned upside down once again, uh, and strangely this time because of Chris Redfield. So at the time, Ethan Winters believes that Chris Redfield shot and killed his wife, Mia Winters. Chris would then take Rose from him, take him away, and he would end up in the village. Again, in his mind, Chris Redfield killed his wife and took his daughter. Just imagine how tragic that is for Ethan. I mean, considering that Chris Redfield saved his life and saved Mia's life at the end of 7, trying to wrap his head around that, imagine how tragic that is. I mean, tragic is the main word in this live stream. No, to cut long story short, because knowing me, I'll probably end up telling the entire story of Resident Evil Village from word to word. So it turns out that Chris didn't kill Mia Winters. He killed Mother Miranda. Mother Miranda was able to mimic Mia because one of the abilities that she got as a result of being infected by the Unimycete was she could mimic anyone or anything, including Mia Winters. He would then find out that he is actually dead. He died in the Baker estate. So it's just tragic. And he would eventually, once he met up with Miranda, saved Rose, he was made aware by Chris Redfield that there's, bombs were placed in the area to basically destroy all of the Unimycete and the Megamycete and the threat of biological weapons. But Ethan's body was weakening. Like, I mean, because he's no longer, like, he's dead basically. So all the damage he took, during the events of Village, fighting with Miranda, took a huge effect on his body. So he was fading away. So he would eventually then make the ultimate sacrifice, so to speak. So he stayed behind. He didn't go with Chris. He stayed behind. He handed Rose over to Chris, and he stayed behind, effectively sacrificing his life to save his daughter. That is, and then Rose Winters has to grow up basically without Ethan. I presume Mia is still alive. And just, yeah, that to me is just extremely tragic, and it's I don't know. I think it makes for a better story than just like shady, secret, fucking corporation that wants to create zombies. I mean, like, it makes for a good horror story, like, and all, like, but I don't know. There was just something about 7 and Village. It's just brought a more of a kind of like I don't know, more of a kind of a human, kind of like personal, kind of a tragic story, and it's different, and I like the fact that it's different. I mean, that combined with the fact that there's so many twists and turns in Village. I mean, when you get towards the end of Village, it just hits you with those twists and turns like there's no tomorrow. Like finding out that Mother Miranda was pretending to be Mia, finding out that your character was dead, Chris confirmed as a good guy. Just crazy. Excuse me. Crazy theories. Or not theories, crazy twists and turns. We're speaking of theories. So that's what this live stream is all about. Is like did my theories, like did the story in my head of what Resident Evil Village was going to be, did it hold up? And as I mentioned earlier, like it didn't hold up 100%, but there was definitely something to my theories. Again, like Oswald E. Spencer played a part. Elements from Resident Evil 7 were definitely present in Village. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So all I can say anyway is the the story of Resident Evil Village that I theorized in my head could not hold a candle, couldn't hold anything, just does not hold up in any shape or form to how amazing the story of Resident Evil Village is. As I said, I played the entire Resident Evil series. You know, 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, 4, 5. Didn't play 6, but I know the story of 6, and that's all. That's good enough for fucking me. 7 and now Village and the spin-offs. Like, see, for me, story is everything in for a for a Resident Evil game. To me, like it's everything. Some people like might prefer the gameplay, but the story is everything to me. One of the best stories in video game history. Damien, 101% there, man. I swear to God, man. It actually is. Like, some people might say that's actually overrated, right? But I actually don't. I mean, like, you can actually. And by the way, Damien, welcome back to Green Hill Gaming, man. Hope you're doing well. And hope you enjoy what is left of this live stream. Anyways, where I've been discussing whether or not my story theories held up to the actual story, and now just talking a little bit about the actual story and how amazing it is. But yeah, Damon, some people might say that's kind of being a bit that's over exaggerating a little bit. No, like, you know, some people may say that, you know, they might say like best story in, you know, video game history, but it is because it's telling a story of like if you break it down into like it's a basic story of a father, you know, searching for his missing daughter. You know, like you would go to the, you know, you would go to the ends of the world to look for your missing daughter, and that's what Eden does. But then like it just like it there's a story built around that then, you know, and it's not just Ethan, you know, it's not just Ethan that's looking, you know, for his missing daughter. You then have the story of Miranda, who lost her baby during the Spanish flu, and all she wants to do is bring back her baby, and that explains all of the experiments that she would have been doing and her actions. Um, like, and then you have the four lords, right? So you have Lady Dimitrescu, what the fuck her name is. You have Heisenberg, you have and the other two, like they're just like tragic pawns in all of this story. Like, you know, they're just caught up in all of this. Like they're caught up in what Mother Miranda wanted to do. So like there's so much story being told in Village, and it's extremely tragic. And I think that's what makes it the best Resident Evil story. And even as you said there, Damien, like one of the best stories in video game history, like 100%. I play a lot of story-driven games. People say they're overrated. Probably plays more online multiplayer games. The Resident Evil Village story holds up, greatly written. Honestly, probably one of Capcom's best. Um, yeah, I mean, like, you will get people that will say story-driven games are overrated. Like, I mean, but that's because they just play too much online multiplayer games. It's you know, like nowadays, like games like Fortnite are so big, and it's only online, and it's a completely different. It's a completely different I suppose like I don't know, culture of gaming. It's community driven games like where you need to be playing games with your friends kind of a thing. So it's yeah, it's a pity that people can't appreciate story driven games um as much. But then just stop playing shitty Fortnite and play story driven games. Resident Evil Village story holds up great. It's greatly, it's 100% like greatly written, and I'd say like it's yeah, I would definitely feel it. It's definitely one of the best stories that Capcom have ever told. Like definitely for Resident Evil anyway. It's just such a captivating story, an immersive story. I mean, I love it. Like I mean, Resident Evil One, you just like it's just it's evolved so much over the years. I agree, man. But look, story-driven games are Sony's thing. So more definitely 100%. Like, oh, we can definitely rely on Sony for giving us story-driven games. I mean, like God of War is on the way. We know that there's a new Horizon on the way. I mean, like they've got Spider-Man. Like they've got so many story-driven games. I mean, they've got the Uncharted series, the Last of Us series. Like, and even though the stories may be complete and uncharted, and I'm not too sure like what's happening with Last of Us, like they're still there. Like they can do so much. They can tell a prequel story. They can tell an origin story. Some kind of a thing like that. And PlayStation is definitely the home of Resident Evil. Like it always was. Like I know there's games on multiple consoles. Like I know that for a time there, like Resident Evil like moved out of home. And we're like, we're moving out of home, and they went to GameCube for a while with Resident Evil, like the remake and the prequel and Part Four. But it always like comes back to PlayStation, in the end, because they would go on to release like four on PS2 along with every other fucking console under the moon. Like, but when it came to PS2, it actually had like additional content and everything. So and with Resident Evil Village, like the maiden demo was exclusive to PS5. When the other demos got released, they were it was early access for PlayStation users. So like yeah, like it's always going to be the home of PlayStation is always going to be the home of Resident Evil. But I swear to God, man, I'm still struggling to digest and process like just how amazing this game is. I mean, I've been hyped for the release of Village for so long, and I've played it now and I've completed it now, and I'm just trying to make sense of just how great this game is, because me and Resident Evil, like it is my favorite video game series uh, of all time. Like I mean, I play a lot of games and I like a lot of games, but I just don't think that any series can match Resident Evil in terms of like exciting me and hyping me and just getting me like this. Like my vocabulary has still gone to shit. Like I still can't even fucking ah. Village just offers so uh, much more depth to its story than any other Resident Evil. Like I like the story of all the Resident Evil games, but like I hope Resident Evil 9 comes before Resident Evil 4 remake. Do you know what? That actually, that's actually not as far fetched as some people may think, because when they were making Village, like early on, they already they already had eight planned, and now we know that nine is already in development. So we don't know. Like I mean, nine could have been in development, like like during the development of eight. So basically, like nine is already in development, whereas like a remake of four could still be up in the air as far as like creative kind of decisions and stuff like that. Apparently, the Resident Evil 4 remake is coming in 2022, 2023. Yeah, I'd say it's a long way off, but I'd say more than likely is a long way off. Muslim actual, just LOL. Um, okay. Really what? So are you an actual Muslim? Nonetheless, man, welcome to Green Hill Gaming. Hope you're keeping well. Hope you enjoyed the live stream. But yeah, Damien, I hope that as well. And I can actually see Resident Evil 9 releasing before the remake of Resident Evil 4 because of the fact that like 9 is already in development and it's part of a trilogy. It's part of a trilogy, so I'd say it'll be released like as far as the creative process is concerned, right? I think Capcom had it in their head a long time ago what kind of story they were going to tell across three games, 7, 8, and 9. Whereas I know 4 is already there, like the source material is already there, like they can work off it. But still, like, I mean, how do you go about remaking like one of the greatest games of all time? Like, how do you go about remaking a fan favorite? Like, you know, 4 came out too many times. I agree. I mean, to be honest with you, I think Capcom should just cancel it because they didn't. First of all, I think people need to get into their head that Capcom didn't actually confirm a remake of Resident Evil 4. We just live in the age of like, you know, if someone online says it's happening, then it's happening. You know what I mean? So many things get leaked now. But like, if I was Capcom, I would cancel it. Like, I would officially cancel it. There's no need for a remake of 4. Like, it's not needed. Like Resident Evil has moved on, and thankfully it has. Like, it's moved on from 4 is there. It's there. If people want to play, by sweet divine Jesus Christ on a stick, if somebody wants to play a Resident Evil 4, it is widely fucking available, like, you know, and it's fine the way it is. You can get it in HD. You'll soon get it in VR, for fuck's sake. It's there. Leave it there, you know. Like Resident Evil has moved on, and like 7 and Village has taken the series uh, into like just a new place, and I just don't think Capcom need to go back from that place, you know. Like they remade 2, they remade 3, that's it, move on, you know. There's no need for a remake of 4, like they're just it isn't because they will hold up like if Capcom cancelled the remake of 4, then they could put all their resources into uh into Resident Evil 9. Like I think all the people who are like, oh, nobody wants this, nobody wants that. I mean, they're just people who just like the only Resident Evil game they played is probably 4, or else they're just huge fans of 5 and 6, and that's why they bash, you know, 7 and Village. But yeah, 100%. I mean, 4 has come up way, way too many times. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to head back to the merchant and save. So I've actually started. There's no need to kind of live stream my second playthrough really, because it would just be so repetitive. As in, like, what I mean is I won't do like a part 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. I'll just from time to time I will live stream my gameplay of my second playthrough of Village. I'm playing on hardcore as well and using New Game Plus, New Game Plus. Um, so I have all of my weapons, and oh god,
Stupid
there's a tall vampire lady.
You won't live long, even if you run!
Really? Well, I've ran and I've lived. But I went the wrong way. Oops. No, I haven't. I don't know why I thought I went the wrong way, but I didn't. Where's the merchant?
It's a pleasure to see you safe. How were things?
No sign of Rose.
I'm so sorry it turned out that way. Well, You'll find your way to her once you're out of this castle. Do you have need of anything for the road ahead?
So, oh yeah, you'll be happy to know that I'll be turning back on my computer voice in the next live stream. The only reason I had the computer voice turned off is because I didn't want the cutscenes to be interrupted by the computer voice. Not that I didn't want to be interrupted by my viewers. I just didn't want to be interrupted by the computer voice. Like I didn't want to be in the middle of a cutscene where Chris Redfield says, "This is why I did what I did." Hello, the computer voice is coming along, like the person. Like Mia, the true identity of Mia Winters is top of the morning to you, Johnny. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't want that shit to be happening, so that's why I turned off the computer voice. But now that I've completed the village and I know the story, I don't need to worry about my computer voice interrupting any cutscenes or anything like that. So I activated and deactivated a few things on my second playthrough. I brought back the classic typewriter, classic save room music, but I've actually activated the found footage screen filter. But as I said, like you don't need to see me, you don't need me to be live streaming a second playthrough of Village from start to finish. So I just want to say that just to make sure that I don't forget to do it. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so yeah, I hope that Resident Evil 9 gets released before 4, and preferably I would just prefer like if Resident Evil 4 remake just didn't happen full stop, because there's absolutely no need at all for it. But it's fantastic to see just how far the storytelling has come in Resident Evil. And as I said, story is everything to me, full stop. Like in everything, comes to game. Like I like a good story, I always like a good story. So like when I play video games, like if the game has a good story, like I'm all over it. Like, and it's story is one of the things that really helped me become such a big fan of the Resident Evil series. And like the storytelling has just 2 seconds I know. Two seconds. But yeah, so it's like the Resident Evil series has come so far from the story of the Umbrella Corporation, STARS, Raccoon City, um, the story of Ethan Winters just surpasses like a lot of sorry, my brain's just Resident Evil Village is literally blowing my mind. Like that's the only way I can put it. But there's what can I say? Resident Evil Village is fantastic. The best Resident Evil game I have ever had the privilege of playing, and it has the best story of the entire Resident Evil series that I have that has just completely blown my mind. And it's a new future for the Resident Evil series. You've got these brand new characters like 7 and 8 brought in Ethan Winters. We now have Rose Winters, you know, and she's going to be a pivotal character to the series going forward. And in terms of like her abilities, like I never really like what I liked about Village is just how advanced the biological weapons actually are. Like I thought that in 7, like Evelyn was like advanced for a biological weapon because she was literally like a human. Like she was a 10-year-old girl. She was able, she would look like a human, but as far as what she was capable of doing, like because she still was a biological weapon, I thought that was advanced. But you'd actually have to kind of stop and realize like just how advanced Village is, because like not only is like sort of the final boss in Village is basically Mother Miranda. So even just Mother Miranda alone, like if you compare her to the Tyrant in Resident Evil 1, like the Tyrant in Resident Evil 1, if you put a Tyrant in Village, honestly, like all you would need to do is just keep shooting her. Just a bit of flesh coming towards you. Like its only instinct is to just walk towards you and cause damage to you. Like it's just so primitive. It's such a primitive biological weapon, you know, compared to how advanced the series has gotten. Like Mother Miranda can speak. Like she's still a human. Like she can speak. She's got a memory. She's got a conscience. She's like, you know what I mean? Do you think the plot against the BSAA will be Resident Evil 9 or possibly DLC? Oh, I like your theory there about the possibility of it being DLC, or will Rose Winters be in Resident Evil 9? I think you could actually be onto something there about the BSAA. There could be DLC where you kind of maybe you play from the perspective of the BSAA, or maybe you play as Chris again and you're kind of like going back and kind of like trying to kind of chase after the BSAA and find out what they're up to. If that isn't the case, if they don't go down the road of DLC, yeah, I can definitely see Resident Evil like 9 like kind of setting up like, you know, this story of, you know, Chris Redfield kind of up against his former organization, you know, the BSAA, trying to kind of like expose them for the cover up of the Baker incident and taking them down because they were using biological weapons. Like, it's crazy to see that. 100% Rose Winters will be in 9. I think she's going to be the main character. Do you know, I'm only waiting for this to happen. Do you know what I always say to you, man? I always say to you, man, that, you know, it's not just like, what was I going to say now again? Like, do you know the way they want to make James Bond a female character, and people lose their shit, and rightfully so, because like James Bond was never like a female character. It's in the name, like James Bond. But equally, then you'll have a case of like this, right? So that's one side. But then when you're waiting for somebody online to turn around and say, "Oh, look at this! They're making the main character female in the next Resident Evil again." Oh my god! And I just laugh because like Resident Evil 1, like it was Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield, so it wasn't a case of like the main character is Chris, you know, and Jill is a side character, or the main character is Jill, and like you basically like Jill Valentine was a main character in Resident Evil. Resident Evil 2, Claire Redfield was the main character in Resident Evil 2, right? Resident Evil 3, Jill Valentine was the main character in that game. Code Veronica, Claire Redfield, female, you know, female. They haven't played Resident Evil before then. Exactly. But I'm telling you, it will happen. Like they'll say, "Oh, they're just trying to bring females in." I mean, these people. See, the thing about these fucking idiots, right, is they just have a really short-term memory. Then again, I suppose the reason they do have a short-term memory is because their memory is short-term, because of the fact that they're fucking just Zoomer kids who just don't have a clue what the fuck they're talking about. You know, but kind of like they don't have to be. You know, basically, you know, there's just going to be idiots that are just going to be like, why are they making the character female? Like so, Resident Evil Zero, the prequel, Rebecca Chambers, main character of Resident Evil. What else? Resident Evil 4, like Ada Wong played a massive role. She's female. Resident Evil 5 had Sheva and Jill Valentine. So like, Jesus Christ, like you're right, man. They're like they haven't played much of the Resident Evil series. They're just going to go into it from say like from 4 onwards, right? So 4, like I know I mentioned that Ada has a massive role in the game, but Leon is the main character, and in 5 Chris is the main character, and in 6, like even though Ada Wong has her own campaign, they're predominantly like male characters. And then Village had Ethan, and 8 had Ethan and Chris. So like you're gonna get people that will look to 9 if Rose Winters is the main character, and they're gonna say, oh, they're just feminizing video games. So like you're gonna get idiots on both sides. Like you're gonna get idiots who will like, you know, want to make every character a female just for the sake of being a feminist. But you're also gonna have the idiots, you know, who are gonna be like, why are you putting a female Resident Evil game when fucking the majority of the Resident Evil series has female characters, lead characters. So yeah, that's a funny one. But I think 9 will definitely, like, I think Rose Winters will be the main character in that game. Like, you'll actually get to control like her, and she'll have her own kind of like abilities, and that might kind of divide the Resident Evil audience once again, because we all know the Resident Evil audience has been divided so many times. Like, but I think they can do it. You know, they can do it. Capcom can do. I mean, like the series has been around for 25 years, so they can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. They can't keep going back to their past and say, oh, let's just bring back zombies and let's bring back the Umbrella Corporation. You know, like you can't just keep doing that. You have to move forward, but you have to do it in a way that, you know, captures the essence of what Resident Evil is. Like, you're gonna get some people that are gonna say, oh, the essence of Resident Evil, oh, it's zombies. No, it's not. Like, the essence of Resident Evil is like an atmospheric, like scary video game where you don't know what's gonna happen next. As far as, you know, monster jumping around the corner at you, and, you know, like plot twists. I mean, think of it, right? Resident Evil 1, like if you basically look at Resident Evil 1 as the seed, right? Resident Evil 1 is the Mega Mindset, yeah, of the Resident Evil series, right? Look at Resident Evil 1, yeah? You're sent in on a mission to the outskirts of Raccoon City to investigate bizarre killings in the forest area. So you that's what you do. That's a bit like Ethan looking for his daughter, or in 7, Ethan looking for his wife. That's the basic premise, the basic story, right? So in 1, you arrive in this mansion, this atmospheric, isolated, creepy mansion, right? In 7, you have the Baker estate. In Village, well, you have multiple locations really, but like you have the village, you have the castle, and you have the surrounding areas. You have this unfolding story that just changes along the way and is full of twists and turns. Like in Resident Evil 1, from the get-go, like you slowly realize that there's a lot more going on here than some kind of like, you know, cannibalistic cult that are eating people. You find out about a pharmaceutical company, you know, who created like a virus that leaked, which caused the zombies. But to skip all the way to the end, you will eventually find out that your captain, Wesker, was working for this company and lured them into the mansion to dispose of them, cover up what was going on, and gather their combat data. And all that happens in the original Resident Evil. This is exactly what happens in, you know, in the later games, like 7 and 8. Like, you think that Mia Winters is your wife, but she's actually Mother Miranda. So that's the essence of Resident Evil. It's not just a company, you know, like the Umbrella Corporation. It's not just one biological weapon, zombies. And the funny thing is, zombies are actually not like biological weapons. They're a byproduct of a biological weapon. Like, the Umbrella Corporation never wanted to actually create zombies. Like, they're not actually biological weapons. They're a byproduct. So, like, if you become like infected by the T virus, like if the T virus is kind of like injected into you, or like, you know, like if you get bitten by somebody who's infected by the T virus, you become a zombie. But the like Umbrella Corporation, when they were creating biological weapons for the US military, like, it was like the Tyrant, like a super like biological weapon, right? That's what they wanted to do. You know, and stuff like the hunters and that. That's all they wanted to do. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we want to create zombies. So, yeah, I've been saying this now for a long while. Like, there's a lot more to the lore of Resident Evil, and there's a lot more to the essence of Resident Evil, and there's a lot more that makes a good Resident Evil than just zombies and the Umbrella Corporation. I laugh when I watch these like big YouTubers like discuss the next Resident Evil game, and like they're talking about like what could be happening in this game, and like or they'll say things like we still don't know what the Umbrella Corporation are up to in the next Resident Evil. I swear they do. Like, you know how the connections are in 7? Like, they'll call the connections the Umbrella Corporation. They'll use that term for every single organization that's in the game, like, you know. Or they'll say things like you know, we still haven't seen the zombies yet. We don't know what the zombies are doing. You know, it's just pure fucking. It's cringy shit, like, to be honest with you. It's cringy shit, like, you know. Like, the Umbrella Corporation folded in 2003, 2004. Like, they've been they've been shut down since then. Like, they haven't been around for a hell of a long time. So yeah. I think the only way to actually I don't know. I think the only people that are going to be happy with the future of Resident Evil is just like not alienating anyone here. I don't, like, you know, but I just think you have to understand the series, you know, to appreciate it. You know, YouTubers, the BSAA. Elizabeth is the founder of the BSAA. Fuck's sake. I'll always remember that. Oh my god. This guy, like, Elizabeth. And I'm like, who the fuck is Elizabeth? But it's cringy to watch, though. Like, just these big YouTubers who clearly have no knowledge of the lore of the Resident Evil series. Which is fine. Like, they don't have to. You don't have to be a Resident Evil fan. You don't have to play a Resident Evil. You don't have to know about the Resident Evil lore to even play it. But I just think that if you're going to make a YouTube video about Resident Evil, like, then you kind of do know you kind of do have to know what it is that you're actually talking about. I think that's the basic requirement that you can have. I'm sorry, my brain is fried. I can't put my words together very well in this live stream. I swear to God, it's from all the late night live streams. I'm definitely getting an early night tonight anyway. Definitely. No more late night live streams tonight anyway, at least. I might even take a break as well tomorrow night. I might just do the live streams around like afternoon, kind of early evening time, because my head is fried, man. Do you know the doll? That was an interesting one. That's actually explained. It's um oh, I think what the hell is your one's name again? Benevito, I think. She basically puts a bit of the. They should have put her in a wardrobe and make her just jump. Oh my fucking god, man! That would give me a heart attack on the spot, man. If that happened. That's a good call there. No, actually, that would have been fantastic. Yeah, man, it would have been great if they actually had done that. Definitely, that's a missed opportunity, right there. To be honest with you, that is a really, really missed opportunity there. Oh my god, man, that would have been one hell of a jump scare if that happened. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. That would be the live stream where fucking Johnny dies. You know, if Green Hill Gaming was an episode of Friends, you know the way they always say the one with the, well, I can tell you one thing. That live stream will be the one where Johnny fucking literally dies in the live stream. Fucking hell. Do you know they're actually having I don't know if you're into Friends. I used to watch it years ago, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. Like, do you know what I mean? I didn't watch all of them, like, but I think it's overhyped though. This so-called reunion of Friends. I don't know how I ended up fucking going from Resident Evil to Friends here now, but it's not actually fucking yeah. But you know what though? I think it's overrated. It's really, really, really overrated because I don't know. I'm not saying that fans have this in their head, but it's like when you hear reunion, you think, oh, they're bringing back Friends, or they're bringing back a one-off episode where it's Friends, but like it's not. Like it literally is just the actors of Friends on the set of Friends, sitting down talking about Friends. So it's not really a reunion of such. Like they're bringing back Frasier, which I fucking love. They're bringing that back at some stage, and they've brought back other TV series over the years. They brought back the X Files. Those were all like reunions, and those were all like shows that came back. But yeah, it really is. Like, I mean, I would say it is kind of stupid, like, you know. And like, in fairness to the actors, like they did kind of continually tell people like that's what it is. But I still think the fans kind of have it in their head like, "Well, Friends is back, Friends is back," but it's not actually back. Like, it's just a nice little way of kind of like, I don't know, just seeing them all there together. Like, but they're just the actors. Like, they're not going to play their parts or anything like that. So yeah, I just basically anyway, what I would say is I just think the whole reunion is really overrated. And I'll be honest with you, I'll be honest with you, yeah. I question how many of them actually want to be there. You know, how many like fake smiles are going to be there? Like, you know, do they want to be all there at the same time? Because I mean, you know, people think it's all smiles and laughter in Hollywood and in showbiz and in business, and they think they're all, you know, quote unquote friends. But that isn't the case all the time, you know. Yeah, Knuckles is going to be in the Sonic movie. Apparently, it's going to be telling the story of Sonic 3, which I know sounds confusing, considering that the name of the movie is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie. But it's going to be heavily inspired by 3. So I suppose the best way to put it really is it will tell the story of 2 and 3, because like 2 introduced Tails for the first time, and then like 3 introduced Knuckles. So it's something interesting. So like Knuckles would be the kind of the what you call it, the like the sidekick of Dr. Robotnik, and Tails then would be obviously the sidekick of Sonic. So it's yeah, it's something interesting. The plot synopsis leaked there the other day. Oh, I'm still amazed that leaks are actually still a thing, like that they can actually happen. That there isn't any kind of like measures that can be put in place to like prevent these leaks from happening. That like that people don't kind of like get fucking prosecuted for them. Oh God. Do you know if my head, if my mind was not my head, but if my head, my brain was a fucking, what do you call it? I can't even fucking explain the fucking definition of what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense? Basically, my brain is burnt out. Did I mention Summer Games Fest starting on June 10th, but E3 happening a couple of days later? I don't think you did, no, but I was aware, right, of that it's going to be kicking off before E3, so it's going to be like a full, like fucking full pack gaming event. Mr. Chad Middleton, welcome back to Green Hill Gaming to you, man. How are you doing? Just about ready to wrap up this live stream. And I know this is my third time saying that, but I was going to wrap up this live stream. But I was just talking about whether or not my Resident Evil Village story theories held up to the final product, the game itself. And to cut a long story short, to micro recap, my theories held up a little bit. Oswald Spencer had a connection to the village. Ethan Winters was infected. In fact, he was already dead because of the mold. The connections are more than likely the organization, Umbrella's rival company, and Mother Miranda was in fact looking to bring back her dead child using Rose, and that gravestone Eva was actually Evelyn. So my theories held up a little bit, not 100%, but I'll tell you one thing: my head is fried. My head is fried from over 2 weeks of late night live streams of Resident Evil Village, and just trying to digest how great of a game, how great of a Resident Evil game Village is, and how great of a story it is. The best Resident Evil game I've played, and the best Resident Evil story that I have experienced, and all of that has just left my brain like mush. I swear to God, I just burnt out. Oh my God. Now, do you know the gas meter in the car, or whatever the hell they call it? Do you know what it's like full and empty? Like, my brain is on empty right now. Like, it really is. So Evelyn is Miranda's daughter. So this is how I'll actually wrap off the live. Yeah, I'm actually going to wrap up the live stream by actually talking about that, Damien. So, good question. I think the second one is right, Evelyn. I know, yeah, it's a pretty tricky name to spell, to be fair, like Evelyn. I suppose you could spell it both ways, to be honest with you. But Damien, that is a great question, and I am going to wrap up the live stream by answering that question, because I think that it's a good way to showcase just how great of a story Resident Evil Village is. It's a great way to show why I think Resident Evil Village has the best story in the Resident Evil series. So, yes, let's answer the question now. So, long story short, Evelyn is the daughter of Miranda, and I will tell you why. So, 100 years ago, Miranda's 10-year-old daughter died due to the Spanish flu. She stumbled into a cave accidentally. When she said Ethan died in the Berkeley house, I was blown away. Man, my head is still blown away. I still haven't found my head yet after hearing that. I swear my head is somewhere else right now. But that's what it is. The story left on the cliffhanger with Chris heading to the BSAA. Then it jumps years ahead with Rose growing up and Ethan walking in the distance. Oh, that's confirmed as well, actually, lads. I see. I'm gonna finish answering your question now, Damien, in a minute. But even though I already answered the question, but I'll elaborate on it further. I actually saw a video on YouTube, and it's an Out of Bounds video. He's obviously playing on a PC, Out of Bounds thing. So you actually see Ethan Winters walking towards the car. So he is still there, strangely enough. So Resident Evil 9 is going to be interesting, or any DLC they release for Village. So so Miranda, she accidentally discovers the Mutamycete and the Megamycete. It's very sci-fi, it's very out there, and it's very Resident Evil. Tom Holland is alive. But basically the Megamycete, which Miranda discovered, contains the consciousness of many, thousands of people who would have died in the village, because the Megamycete has roots deep under the village. So anyone who dies in the village, their consciousness gets stored in the Megamycete. And it's also the Mutamycete, which Miranda infected herself with, giving her essentially supernatural abilities, including the ability to control people, which is why she was able to control the biological weapons in Resident Evil Village. It also gave her the ability to mimic anything and anyone, which is how she ended up mimicking Mia Winters. And it gave her regenerative purposes as well, and basically like immortality as well. But so to get back to the Evelyn, right? So she wanted to get a vessel, the perfect vessel, another human basically, so she could bring to the Megamycete and basically bring back her daughter Eva using the Megamycete, because the consciousness of Eva would be in the Megamycete. Sounds similar to Swamp Things. Really, I haven't seen that movie in years. So then the Connections would reach out, the crime syndicate specializing in biological weaponry, founded by Oswald Spencer's friend Bailey, would reach out to Mother Miranda and say, we can help. So Miranda handed over DNA of Eva and the Mutamycete, and the Connections created Evelyn. So Evelyn is essentially Rose. So yeah, not 100% Rose, but Evelyn would be sorry, what did I say Rose for? Sorry, Eva. I'm confused now. So Evelyn is basically Eva. Evelyn is basically Eva. So you could argue, you definitely could say that Evelyn is Miranda's daughter, which then kind of means in a way that Eva, sorry, not Eva, but Rose would be like a kind of, I suppose you could say, like, I don't know how you would explain Rose really. Well, Evelyn kind of gave birth to Rose, so you could say that Rose is actually Evelyn's mother, which is all kind of fucked up, really, isn't it? But there's definitely inspiration. Even the fetus thing, like, felt Silent Hill PTs with Mia on the radio hallway. Yeah, oh man, it's 100%. Do you think Resident Evil 9 will be where Chris left off? There's a Shaun of the Dead Easter egg. Is there a Shaun of the Dead Easter egg? I wasn't aware of that. My brain can't handle all of these things right now, to be honest with you. Do you think Resident Evil 9 will be? Yeah, Resident Evil 9. I will possibly like it'll definitely pick up after the events of Village because it's going to be part of a trilogy. So that's pretty much how Evelyn was created. That explains who Evelyn is and how she is connected to Eva, and how Rose is basically connected to all of them. So yeah, I mean, like, and it's like that all that setting up, all that sets up the events of Resident Evil 9, which is just going to be amazing. But my experience with Resident Evil Village has left my brain shattered. Like it's in pieces. Like it's fried. And then all the late night live streams. BSAA using bows is interesting. It's very interesting. The fact that the BSAA are supposed to be combating biological weapons and preventing bioterrorism. So they're basically involved in bioterrorism. So it's a nice little, it's an interesting story, you know, that kind of gets told a lot in movies, and I suppose it even happens in real life. Like the very organizations that are supposed to be protecting, you know, individuals and countries from something are actually engaging in it themselves, you know. So it's it happens in real life and in movies and now in video games. So yeah, the BSA were funded to combat the legacy of the Umbrella Corporation, like its biological weapons and its viruses, and yeah, and now they're engaging in it. Lads, I have nothing more to say in this live stream. My head is absolutely fried from Village in a good way. It's just been the best Resident Evil game that I've had the privilege of playing, and the best story. So yeah, so I'm going to be playing it for the foreseeable future, but I will play it in between other games. Well, don't worry about that. I will play other games in between. But I will say, like, the majority of my live streams will be Village. So what's next for Resident Evil Village for me? So I'm currently on my second run. I'm playing it on hardcore. I decided that there's no need to live stream the entirety of that second playthrough, because you would have seen the game, everyone would have seen the game. Or the BSA, the reason why Ethan and Mia moved there, so they knew what would happen all along. Yeah, it was, in a way, it was kind of part of the BSA, kind of covering up what happened. Baker family. So because my lovely viewers would have seen Resident Evil Village, like it was see me play it, like in the village, the castle, and everywhere else. There's no need to see me playing on hardcore. All you're going to see is me doing the same thing, but, you know, taking more damage and dying more. That's all you're going to see. Like, as far as like content wise, that's what you're going to get the secret. Oh yeah, I must build up my points for that. Actually, I'm definitely going to get that. That would be absolutely unreal. I have to get that. Definitely have to get that. So there'll be a bit of Mercenaries gameplay coming up. There's lots more Resident Evil content to look forward to on Green Hill Gaming. But until then, I just want to say thank you to all of you who have watched my Resident Evil Village gameplay live streams so far. Really hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching this live stream as well. Thank you for putting up with my rambling, because when my head is fried and my vocabulary goes out the window, I just talk complete gibberish. So thank you for putting up with my gibberish. And as I said, there'll be a lot more Resident Evil Village content to come. So look forward to that. But till then, thank you so much for watching this live stream. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.